Welcome back. We're still reeling from the midterm election results and the Democratic Party here in Michigan, the legislature, and of course, the lack of engagement with Detroit voters. Here to talk about it is Ed Sarpolus. He's a veteran pollster and the president of Target Insight. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
You know, I've been meaning to talk to you suddenly on this election that just passed. We see Democrats are jumping, excited that they've taken over the legislature in Lansing. Correct. But I feel like it comes at the expense of black representation in Lansing in terms of redistricting, something that you've harped on. But also, during this last election, we've not seen any messaging from Democrats for Detroit.
No, they haven't. As a matter of fact, one of the comments that I've been bringing out for the last 2 years, in fact, is that actually, as a matter of fact, it started in 2014 when 40% of Detroiters didn't even know who Mark Schauer was when he ran for election for governor. 40%. Come 2022, 40% of Detroiters didn't know who Dana Nessel was. A little bit better on Gretchen, but it's the same thing. There is no campaign that I can see in almost 10 years of a campaign system for reaching out to black voters. Now remember, a lot of voters are starting to leave the city, but the point being, there's not really a black voter campaign.
Right, right.
The other thing, which I find very interesting, with the largest loss of black voters amongst black males, there's not even a black male message. And I think that's what's going to hurt them down the road. As a matter of fact, Stacey Abrams announced of her race saying that she didn't talk to black males. One of the reasons she lost Georgia, there was no black male outreach. So Michigan's following the same track. There isn't. You know, we have no black congressman for Michigan except John James. But in Detroit, we don't have a black representative there. Number two, there's an alienation of black leaders to be put in position of leadership in the state Senate. Obviously, in the state house, Representative Tate is fantastic to have someone in that position. We haven't someone at that high since Kwame Kilpatrick was in the state house. But the bottom, there has no campaign. Every campaign season, the governor's office, the Democrats are rushing, we need people in Detroit to help us turn out to vote, or whatever. Something else I find interesting, if it wasn't for Rhonda Paul, black businesswoman from Macomb County, bringing home the blacks during the primary against Carmelinga, and Judge Terry Dennings doing her campaign, the Democrats wouldn't have won those Senate seats in Macomb County because it was for Rhonda Paul and Terry Dennings that the blacks began to come home because they were all leaning John James.
So it amazes me because one would expect, Ed, and you know, this is something you've looked at for decades, that Democrats would embrace the largest Democratic base in the state, which is Detroit.
Correct. But they don't, and that's the reason why, though turnout was good in black terms, but when you're 20% less than the white turnout, 56 down to some mid-30s, that's not good. And I looked at it, was a week before the election, only 60,000 absentee voters applications for Detroit were actually returned. That means there was really no effort. And some of this turned off. You think we have blacks in Macomb County, Oakland County.
Do you feel that the Democratic Party doesn't feel like it must invest in Detroit anymore?
I don't think they know what to do with the black community. They don't have any black voices in the party of any kind.
Don't they have Lavora Barnes? She's a black woman. She heads a party.
Lavora Barnes has not been in position of previous party leaders of being very visible in the community, around the community. I just don't see that. Well, whether that's because of lack of money or whatever it is, I don't understand that. I just don't see in the last 10 years a really push to really engage the black community.
But even in the redistricting issue, you did polls on that and so forth. We've not even seen the Democratic Party's engagement on the redistricting issue.
No, as a matter of fact, they
poo-pooed it away. It's as if they stayed away. Go ahead.
They stayed away. As a matter of fact, when the Governor Whitmer began to say we're ignoring the black voters, she was shunned off by Jocelyn Benson, don't go there. As a matter of fact, Gretchen actually was speaking to the issue there for a while, but then she backed away. It was more about just winning seats, but not ignoring their base vote. And no, this is, I've seen this now for going back for a long time, but I was really quite surprised. I have to give credit to Gretchen until she was told stop dealing with that issue of racial gerrymandering, that there's no voice about what happened about that.
So let's you have a Democratic legislature now, right?
Yes.
But it comes at the expense of black representation. We don't have that many black senators in Lansing anymore.
No, because they eliminated that. They drew the seats that, for example, Sylvia Santana is a black senator from Detroit, but her district owns like 30-some% black. The rest is Dearborn, is a Muslim and Arabs and other people. She's lucky that she gained the support of the Muslim community and the Arab community, the reason she won. They intentionally eliminated her district. You got Stephanie Chang, you've got a lot of good people, but there is no voice in Detroit. And they even eliminated Sylvia Santa from leadership positions that she could have had. They basically told her, we don't want you running for the leadership position. You know, this is amazing. The last 10 years has been no.
So I'm wondering how Democrats come back at this, though. The lack of engagement with Detroit voters, the lack of black voter engagement. How do they come back at this in 2024 and 2026? Is there a way they can come back at this? Well, I mean, can they recoup from this loss? Because they're going to need black voters in 2024, whether they like it or not. Well, I mean, they can run an abortion in 2024.
No, well, here's an amazing fact. I projected I reran all the elections going back to 2002 using the current boundaries. I showed that in January this year, the Democrats would win at least minimum 59 House seats. They ended with 56 and 18 seats. So yes, they did what I expected to that. But you look at what in 2020, using the same New Jersey, the Democrats are going to lose everything again, because they're not going to have those coattails. But here's my problem is, and I'm going to be pushed back on you a little bit. Where are the black voices and leaders in the city demanding they get the attention? There was no black leadership in redistricting. They raised no money. My saying the fact is that there's people like me who I'm born and raised in Detroit. There's people like you, but I don't see any black leaders stepping forward and demanding that they get attention.
No, I think you make a great point. You know, it's not only to what Ed is saying. You know, people have asked me, what has the NAACP been doing? The local Detroit NAACP under Wendell Anthony, what did they do in this redistricting issue? So I think, I mean, you raise a fair question.
And here's why I did, because during the redistricting lawsuit, the first lawsuit,
I feel like we're crying over a spilled milk on redistricting. Go ahead.
But the point being, the fact is, all of us who worked on the redistricting laws, the first one, were non-black. We all did it pro bono. You know, we had Arab and Lebanese and Muslims working on the redistricting case along with me, and I was an expert witness. There was no black real presence. Sure, Gay Donago was helping, but you look at the main team. We did this all pro bono. There was no money available. No money was raised to actually pursue a real legal case. We all did this pro bono.
The Detroit NAACP should have been raising money. They should have been leading that fight. It should not, you know, it's just, you know, I look at it and it's like, okay, Democrats have won Lansing. You know, they took over the legislature, Ed, but the first time in decades. And I hear all of that. There is reason to jubilate, but I feel like it comes at a great expense, a great loss for black people, because one, no representation, not enough representation in Lansing. Redistricting has been a big mess, has really undercut black representation. So it's like, what's there to celebrate? And then in 2024, like you said, there are no coattail issues you're going to run on in 2024.
No, as a matter of fact, since 2016, I've been working with the Michigan Black Caucus doing polling in the black community. All they're asking for is, give us hammers, give us saws, give us ability to actually succeed.
Yeah.
Listen, we're not asking for handouts.
Yeah.
Even our version that I worked with Keith Williams on the reparations was not about a handout. Give us our tools so we can do it.
So let me ask you this though, on a national scale with Biden, because you know, they're going to need Michigan, right? Michigan has to swing blue.
Especially what happened in Florida this time.
Yeah, exactly. Michigan has to swing blue. Let's talk about, where do you see Michigan on the national scale in 2024? What are the perils here for Democrats?
Well, the paralysis right now is that who's going to be their leader? I think Debbie Stabenow is up again in 2026. Is she going to run? Well, that's the big question. I mean, there was some talk that she was going to turn over her seat to like a Debbie Dingell or Jocelyn Benson. She was going to have Gretchen appoint her replacement, so that person would be incumbency. Okay, but the point being, even if that happens, if Debbie does not run for your Senate, where's the money going to come from to support the party? The party is broke. They depend on top of the ticket races like governor or U.S. Senate or president to bring the money to the table. If Debbie does not run, where does the money come from to support those grassroots efforts?
So they got a lot of work to do.
They got a lot of work to do.
Gretchen Whitmer has said, Governor Whitmer has said she's not running for president. She's not interested in going to Washington. You believe her?
Well, it's the right things that she should be saying, because the fact that she says anything.
Go ahead.
The point being the fact that she has to stay at home because, first of all, she wants to deal with issues that may cost them their victories in 2024.
Right.
I don't know why the Democrats started off with right to work. Not to say that it isn't right to deal with that issue, but you don't lead with that issue. because Michigan voters are 50-50, and that's going to encourage more Republican turnout. You're going to turn off the people that you won in this last election. You're giving reason for Republicans to show out if you address that issue. I'm not saying don't deal with the issue, but why did you lead with that issue?
Good question. Thank you so much, Ed, for being here. Ed Sarpolus is the president of Target Insight and veteran pollster, talking to us here on Sunday Nation. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, if it is Sunday, it is Sunday Nation with Bankole Thompson on MyTV38 WADL-Detroit. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving week. I'll see you next week with more edition.